Hi everyone, it's Mitesh here, and welcome to episode 6 of my podcast, Cryptos with Mitesh, where I take a deep dive on the news and information in the cryptocurrency industry. Please be sure to check out my last episode in which I discussed what Facebook Libra and Calibra are to ensure that you are caught up, since this is a two-part podcast. To be clear, Facebook has not yet launched Libra and Calibra, but are looking to do so as soon as they have answered US lawmakers' concerns. Before I begin, I would like to thank SKN Capital Management LLC for being a sponsor of this podcast. And please be sure to follow me on Twitter at MiteshShaw93 and sign up for updates on my website, cryptoswithmitesh.com. You can find this podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, and Google and Apple Podcasts under Cryptos with Mitesh. Now without further ado, let's get things started. In this episode, I will be explaining the significance of the Facebook Calibra Senate hearing and why it is so important, as well as the impact it will have in the industry and for Facebook Libra moving forward. As of recording, the current price of Bitcoin is $9,528 US, Ethereum is $210, and XRP is about 31 cents according to CoinMarketCap. Before I begin, as I mentioned earlier, this is a two-part podcast, so please be sure to check out episode 5, which is the first part, and talks about what Calibra and Libra are. This episode is the second part and will dive into the Senate hearings that took place on July 16th and 17th. The head of Facebook Calibra, David Marcus, was grilled by the Senate about Libra and Calibra. David Marcus has been a part of Facebook since 2014 when he was the vice president of their messaging products until 2018 when he switched into an explorative role regarding blockchain technology. Then in 2019, he became the head of Calibra during its creation. Prior to Facebook, David was a member of various startups and is also the former president of PayPal and was on the board of directors for Coinbase. Now for the Senate hearing. While the hearing ended on a somewhat positive note for Facebook's Calibra, with the Senate concluding that they would like to hold another hearing for more information, there definitely were some negatives that may hurt Libra, including several Senate members using their time simply to state how bad Facebook is, whether or not it intended to be so, specifically in regards to user privacy and data, as well as the lack of knowledge regarding the technology they wish to utilize. The overall hearing was a mix of bashing Facebook for how they've mishandled situations in the past and honest questioning of what Calibra is trying to accomplish and how they plan to do so. The hearing was a 2-day event spanning several hours each day. There are some major takeaways from the hearing that show the Senate's overall views on cryptocurrency, as well as how they view Libra and Calibra, and by extension Facebook. To me, the largest takeaway was the Senate's recognition that the United States should be the leading rulemaker for cryptocurrencies. This is in part due to one of David's opening remarks in which he said that he believes that if America does not lead innovation in digital currency, others will. It seems that they finally acknowledge the major push that companies in this industry have been making to get some sort of legislation in place. The only disconnect here seems to be that the Senate now wants to explore possible regulations for this industry. The reason I say this is a disconnect is because there's already legislation going around the House, which is the Token Taxonomy Act of 2019, which I have discussed in depth in episode 3 of my podcast. The team in DC that I have been working with on the bill has told me that while there is no Senate leader for the bill, there is an active push for members of the Senate Banking Committee to be aware that there is already a bill in the House regarding this. The work has already been done to create the bill with input from many industry leaders that took place during a roundtable event last year. Since the bill already includes the pertinent items to serve as the first step or a light touch, the focus should be on moving this bill towards a House vote and then into the Senate, as opposed for the Senate to be reevaluating what sort of regulations they want to move forward with. Another takeaway is that the Senate was more wary of the fact that Calibra is a subsidiary of Facebook rather than they're creating a cryptocurrency and are based out of a foreign country, which is Switzerland. David did note that Libra will still register with FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. This also goes in hand with various surveys that show that there is more trust in Bitcoin than in Libra. A Civic Science poll showed that 35% of participants said that they trust Libra much less than Bitcoin, with only 1% saying that they trust it much more than Bitcoin. 39% said that they were unsure, 19% said that they would trust them about the same, 5% said they trust Libra somewhat less than Bitcoin, and the final 1% said that they trust it somewhat more than Bitcoin. To be clear, the poll received 1,770 responses. As I mentioned in the previous podcast episode, most of this distrust comes from Facebook not handling user information securely in the past and have faced major issues because of this. Neither the Senate nor industry participants are sure if Facebook will be able to truly protect user data surrounding Libra and Calibra. Also, the Senate had a hard time believing that Calibra will be able to prevent any illicit trading of Libra. In regard to Facebook locating Calibra in Switzerland, as I discussed in the last podcast episode, I believe this was due to Switzerland's clear regulatory system in place for cryptocurrencies, not that Facebook is trying to circumvent the US's regulations and oversight. As I mentioned earlier, Facebook has not yet released Libra and Calibra. Facebook and Calibra have assured the Senate that Libra will comply with all US regulations, and they will not launch Libra until they have answered all questions and have made everything clear. I believe this is the right move for Facebook to make, as they are suffering from broken trust from the industry and from many of their consumers. So making sure you answer all questions regarding their upcoming Libra can go a long way in attempting to build trust. Also, David noted that Facebook and Calibra are the only one of the current 28 companies in the Libra Association, showing that they have a relatively small voice in decision making. When asked about the revenue model for Calibra, Marcus mentioned that it is not the intention of Calibra to sell or directly monetize user data. Rather, that Facebook's core revenue model is to lead companies to spend more on Facebook ads. In terms of competition, while Facebook will not embed other wallets into their applications, such as Messenger and WhatsApp, they will not block other wallets that may be interoperable with them. David did dodge a question regarding user data around transactions for purchases made with Libra on Facebook. He only mentioned that users can use other payment options, not whether or not Facebook will record any of the transaction data itself. Along with that dodge question, there were other red flags for me that arose throughout the two-day hearing. First, Senator Sinema mentioned a TechCrunch article that I will link in the description for reference that discussed crooked developers being a major risk for Libra. Unfortunately, it seems that the Libra Association will not actively vet developers. As mentioned in that article, a similar decision led to a major hack of the Cambridge Analytica system in which 87 million people had their data stolen. The Senate hearing concluded with the Senate seeking more answers and clarifications on Libra, Calibra, and the Libra Association's governance, as well as Facebook's and Zuckerberg's overall involvement. One moment in the hearing, Senator Sherman from California said that Libra isn't truly its own thing, but rather people will call it for what it truly is, which is a Zuck buck. This is just one instance in which a senator spoke about Facebook and Zuckerberg's involvement, which they see as a major negative point. Overall, to me, it seems that Facebook's Calibra is willing to put in the necessary work to ensure that Libra not only becomes a success, but that it passes with the Senate. David said that Calibra agrees with the very legitimate concerns raised by regulators. This is why they released their white paper so far ahead of any public launch, and they want to make sure that they took the time to get this right. Again, this is something I completely agree with, as it will go a long way in creating a base of trust that Libra needs in order for it to succeed. As I mentioned in the last episode, Calibra is planning on this system being well adopted across the globe, and have taken steps to include the necessary systems to allow this mass adoption. However, I would recommend that Calibra take additional steps to ensure total protection on the Libra platform. First, in regard to having an open blockchain, the Libra Association needs to implement a vetting system for developers to prevent any illicit activity from occurring, especially to prevent a duplicate of the Cambridge Analytica system in which data was stolen or collected illegally. While Calibra's head of product, Kevin Whale, said that this vetting system can lead to a closed ecosystem with increasing fees, I believe that protecting user data is one of the, if not the most important thing that Libra needs to take care of, regardless of increasing fees, because any sort of negative situation will once again raise the major concerns that Facebook cannot be trusted to handle user data, which will ultimately lead users to leave the system. Second, I would encourage Calibra, as David had mentioned, to heavily increase education around the space and explain to users how to best avoid scams. As with the cryptocurrency industry in general, newcomers and less educated participants are preyed upon by scams. While the SEC has done a good job shutting down fraudulent ICOs and other such fundraisers, there are still users and groups that are able to trick early participants into sending their coins to another wallet for a fraudulent reason. Having AML and KYC protocols is a great first step, but more needs to be done, and I believe the best way to do so is to educate users. Third, It became apparent throughout the hearing that David was unable to answer many questions as Facebook and Calibra were either still looking into those areas and they were just unsure how to answer. I believe that it is important that for any upcoming hearings, whether they include David Marcus, Zuckerberg, or any other member of Facebook and Calibra, to have the answers to these past hearings that were either dodged or unanswered due to lack of knowledge. I thought that overall, David did a good job answering most of the questions posed to him. However, there needs to be more clarification in future hearings, and if Libra is to succeed, we need a clearer and larger picture of what is going on behind the scenes, including the true involvement of each member in the Libra Association. I hope that Libra can become something positive and can succeed and is able to help the people that they claim they want to help. In order to do so, they need to come back with the answers to questions that were left on the table. I will be paying close attention to Facebook, Libra, and Calibra to see how they navigate this space, and I will be sure to have a podcast on anything that comes up in the future. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode, and please be sure to like, comment, and share. Also, please be sure to follow me on Twitter at MiteshShaw93 and sign up for updates on my website, cryptoswithmitesh.com, as well as on SoundCloud, Spotify, and Google and Apple Podcasts under Cryptos with Mitesh to make sure you don't miss when I upload my next episode. Until then, take care, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye.